in line with your intro for the podcast too, is that creativity can take so many different forms, and it's something that I think I've had to come to accept over the years, is that creativity can just be, or your purpose, as you're driving at, it can just be that you're good at problem solving.
Okay, so welcome to Young and Gifted Podcast, the podcast where we dive into the stories of young and gifted professionals. And by young, I don't mean age, we mean at heart. On this podcast, we're going to be talking to young, regular professionals, people chasing different things in life. And hopefully we could give you guys insight to how they think and could inspire you guys and coach you guys to be better. This podcast is sponsored by Oxambo Barbershop, London's finest. So today we have Nathan. He's a contractor. He's a close friend of mine, and he's a young entrepreneur as well. Today the topic is the unemployables. We were having a discussion last week, and we were talking about why it's so hard for us to be employed, and it's the same for a lot of youth these days, with everything being accessible with hard work and stuff. I feel like so much people nowadays are unemployable. So we wanted to dive into that topic. Nate, you could introduce yourself.
I don't know what much to say about myself, I guess, right now. I'm Nathan Lamont. I am a contractor, like Vaughn said. I do so many different things. I've done so many different things throughout my life, so it's kind of hard to take on a title like that, because it doesn't really encapsulate, I guess, what I see myself doing, but it best describes where I'm at right now, I guess.
Yeah.
But kind of to your point of the whole unemployable thing, like, I think people like us have had more jobs than the average person.
Yeah.
We've been in so many different fields, like, through your intro, you told everybody how you came here to culinary school and then moved on to the barbershop.
Yeah.
And, like film school, and you're doing a podcast now, podcaster. And so, like, there's just so many outlets for people who have, I think, an insatiable desire to try new things and to see where we best fit.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the topic really comes to, is feeling like we don't necessarily fit within anyone else's world because we need to create our own.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like as you're talking about that, I feel like so much people put this tag or this title on young creatives and stuff, that they're brave or they're special and these kind of things. I feel like when people put those labels on us, they kind of downplay what we actually go through. Because a lot of the time when they say, "Oh, this guy is brave," it's like, in your quiet time, you're not really brave, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are motivated by fear rather than bravery. I don't think anyone, I shouldn't say anything to anyone. I don't think most entrepreneurs or creatives jump into it being like, "Oh, I'm going to be brave." It's most times that the fear, the FOMO, like the fear of growing old and being like, "Oh, I didn't get to do this thing that was beating in my heart for so long, and now look at where I am." I know some people think I'm wrong for saying this. Is oftentimes, for me at least, I look at people who have regular jobs and could go to the regular job and go home and enjoy their life. I look at them and I say, I wish I could be like that, because it seems like such an easier lifestyle. It's like you wake up, you go to work, you go to the gym, you come home, you watch movies, And to me, if I could live like that and be happy, I would, because it's so much simpler. Most people who chase something and creators, if you really chase it, you spend so much time of your life being broke, trying to figure out things, trying to find friends, trying to find a community, trying to find a way, until you actually break through, and that's why you and I could sit here and be like, "Oh, I did so much things. You did so much things," Because I know if you guys think Nate look familiar, it's because he was in a music band. I know you guys probably see him on TV. in high
No,
school.
no one saw that one.
He was
No
in
one
a
saw
he was in a
that.
music band, and they were on TV. They were on tour. You know. So at that point, I'm sure he probably thought he was going to be Justin Bieber, but here we are. How much years later? 10, 15 years later.
Nah, at least 15. Yeah.
Yeah, having this conversation. But yeah, so it's just like stuff like this that we always talk about when we get together, right? And
Yeah.
I
I mean,
know,
this is a conversation we've had so many times now, right? Like the whole idea of bravery for people who strike out on their own and in their own path, and just like you said, like it's not, at least for myself, and I know for you, it's not about being brave. It's about just that fear of regret, later in life, or even tomorrow, feeling like we have missed opportunities from yesterday, or from, you know experiences that we had access to that weren't safe, that weren't guaranteed, or that weren't predictable. And those are the things that I find I've always had the most reward from, and I always take the most away from those experiences, because you have to create a lot of new solutions. And people always ask young people, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like, I think I've answered that question when I was a kid. I answered that question like 700 different ways. Like, it was just, I remember at one point in elementary school, I said I wanted to be a bartender, and that was like my greatest aspiration at the time. And I did that for a number of years, not because it was my childhood aspiration, but because it's a way where people who want a new challenge every day, and who like interacting with new people and learning new things, people like that really excel in that environment, because you're constantly interacting with new people. You get to meet people from every profession, people from every income level, people who are going through really good times and really bad times. But the common thread between all those people is that they either love or hate what they do. And when you get to sit behind the bar, or stand behind the bar and listen to their stories, you kind of get a chance to learn maybe what does work for most people and what doesn't. And the people who came in always the most miserable were usually the people who worked the 9 to 5 job. They were the ones who were going back to the same problems every day, because they didn't have an opportunity to fix them. And I know some companies are better than others, and they'll let you come in and solve problems and create solutions, and you're recognized for being able to think on your feet and change their outcomes. But a lot of companies aren't. They want you to keep doing the same thing over and over again, even if they know it's broken. It's easy, and they have documentation that supports that method, so they don't want to entertain a new method because it costs them money. Even though they don't realize that in the long run, that costs them more money not fixing something that's broken. So I always used to think, you would hear these people come in and they're miserable about their life, or they just maybe consuming more alcohol than they need to be on a regular basis. And you kind of think about like why that is. And it's not always the case that it's because they're in a job that they're unhappy with, because there's lots of entrepreneurs who drink a lot, and they end up going down
a lot of creatives too, right?
a lot of creatives too, that go down bad paths, right? Like, or paths that are detrimental to their health, I guess. But it's always interesting seeing there's people who have kind of like a spark in their eye, and they're usually not the ones who just got off their shift from a factory, or just finished a shift at the hospital, or worked at McDonald's all day long. Like Christy talked about it. The jobs that you do when you're when you're young, the ones that you have to do to survive,
Exactly.
they're not the ones that usually ignite your interests and kind of resonate with what you really believe in and what you love.
Yeah, and I feel like as you saying, I feel like that's why I think like we live in one of the best generations in terms of timing, right? I feel like no generation had information and stuff at the fingertips like we have right now, right? And now what we're starting to see is like all these older business owners saying, "Oh, these kids don't like to work because yeah, they want to work, they just don't want to work for you," you know. a minimum wage job pays you for your time, right? And a high paying job pays you for your life.
Hmm.
So what price you have on your head, right? Is that you go and sell some of your time, right, and have your life, because a minimum wage job you could leave whenever and get a next minimum wage job.
Right.
But a high paying job, it's hard to just leave and go and get a next one.
Yeah.
Something you had to look for it. It'll take time. You can't just be like, you know what? Forget this job. I'm gonna get a next one tomorrow. Some people could, but that's not the reality for everyone, right?
Hmm.
And think about time and what time really is, and how valuable time is and how valuable your life is and your brain and the creativity and all these things that God put in us, that we spend so much time at a job. And honestly, I did try the way of jobs. I did. I was working at a restaurant downtown. This was the last time I had a this was the last time I had a job. Like a job in terms of show up to work. I'm not
Hmm.
talking about working in a barber shop or any other job. So I started there 2 weeks into my program. So the head chef was training me, and he trained me to make pizzas a certain way. And the owner didn't like the way he trained me to do pizzas. So the owner would come when it's busy and be like, "Oh, you're making the pizzas wrong." I'd be like, "Okay, that's how he showed me. No, do it how I want." Okay, cool. The next morning, this is 2 weeks into my job. The next morning, he comes and he says, "Are you ready to work today?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, because if you mess up, you're fired." Right? And at that point, something died in me. Right? At that point, something died in me, because at that point, I literally take off my clothes and I told the head chef, and the only reason, no, the sous chef, the only reason I told the sous chef is because he was the only other black guy in the place. So I was like, you know what? I owe him an explanation.
Yeah.
So at least he know that our people not lazy. This is what really happening. I'm like, yo, so I'm leaving because I don't want to work for this guy.
Yeah.
So then he comes when I'm changed and he's like, "Oh, you don't think you could do it?" I was like, "I know I could do it. I just don't want to do it for you."
Hmm.
Right? I never spoke to anybody like that. Granted, I stayed at a job that told me that he didn't put me as a chef, he put me as a dishwasher because Caribbean people are slow. I stayed at that job. This was before that, right? At this point is when I realized I'm in a country where you can make money off YouTube. You can make money off buy. We were just talking about the Nike outlet. People going
Hmm.
to the Nike outlet buying stuff, selling it over garage sales. You could make money however you want. I refuse to allow someone to talk to me how they want. Until this day, I treat my employees different, and yeah, most times it come back to bite me because they're too nice. But like I always tried, even when I was a chef, to create an environment that was welcoming to even the dishwasher, because I was there before.
Hmm.
And that's what we see right now. Like creativity is something that is a blessing and a curse. It's a curse when you're trying to figure out the exact thing you're creative with.
Yeah. I think kind of in line with your intro for the podcast too is that creativity can take so many different forms, and it's something that I think I've had to come to accept over the years is that creativity can just be, or your purpose, as you're driving at, it can just be that you're good at problem solving, or it can just be that you have an eye for things looking nice. And when things look nice, that can be, you could be a makeup artist, you could be a home decorator, you could be a landscape architect, you could be a marketing executive. You Looking nice has of such a broad definition. I think a lot of people who are creatives, they limit themselves to discrete disciplines because that's the way that the rest of the world works. But it really doesn't have to, right?
Exactly.
Like, how many people do you know that can only do one thing? Yet our jobs, or the jobs that are available to us, try to make it such a way that we have one goal. And I understand that there's room for specialization, but there's also a lot of merit to being able to be adaptable, to be able to change on the fly, to be able to apply your skills, your gifts, whatever they are, to unique settings, new situations. Like you've gone through so many different unrelated careers, but something that you've been able to maintain through all those things is that when you cook, you can solve a problem of making people happy, right? And that's something you've always said to me is that you like to cook, and this is something we share, is you like to cook because of the community that it creates, right? You're bringing people together. People always are brought together over food. It was one of the big motivators when I started my current business. I really wanted to just build furniture, and that was kind of my initial scope. And then I realized that starting out as just a furniture maker is a really hard way to actually make any money, unless you have some very well-known name and you can sell some super creative pieces for crazy amounts of money. But the big thing for me was I wanted to build dining tables, because dining tables are where people gather to break bread or to have a meal, right? It's where you have some of your most important conversations. It's where you share some of the most important time together. And that's kind of, I've seen how my initial focus was on the dining table as an object, but the motivation was really around that moment. And I realized quickly that I can pivot and go into a space like construction, where I already had lots of years of experience and skill, and was great, lucky enough to be able to grow up in kind of those things, and apply the same passion for bringing people together to renovations, remodeling. A lot of people want to buy a house, and then the first thing they want to do is either add a bathroom, which is just entirely utility, or renovate their kitchen. A kitchen is where people spend so much time when they're at home, unless they just don't cook at all and they always eat out or whatever. But even still, you're probably sitting in your kitchen eating to some extent. Even if it's at your kitchen island or something like that. Kitchens are this. Realtors like to say they're the heart of the home, and it's always kind of a cliche, but it's true. Like it's where family comes together. It's where you bring your friends in. It's where you have difficult conversations about important things, but it's also where you celebrate all of your life successes.
Yeah. Kitchens and bathrooms, right? Eating and taking a shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think taking a shit is pretty peaceful, but yeah, no. But, so like going based on what you were just saying, yeah, I feel like I feel like everyone is creative. I feel like even when you have a job, bro, they pay you for your creativity. If you wasn't creative, they'll fire you. They leave you. They'd be like, okay, no, we need somebody who could solve problems. So that's what you say, right?
Yeah.
Is that it all
they want that, but they don't want to actually put that in the job description, because then they have to pay you more.
Exactly. They wouldn't come and say, oh, Nate is so creative. They say, oh, Nate solves problems. So in your mind, oh, I'm not really creative at this, I could solve a problem. Which is the same thing as how you're gonna be creative to get this done. And if you really look at your life, as you just did, you could actually see where everything connect, and you could see your passion. It's like your passion is, oh, I wanted to get families together. My passion was, oh, it have so much hurt people in the world that I want to make things better for them. And that's how this podcast came alive, was from me doing film and being like, I need to reach people and stuff. But right now stuff was slow because I just starting up the business, and when you starting up a business, it's always different like that. And then I was like, what? But I have so much things to get out, and I have so much things that could help people that I need to find a way to do it, and that's where we are right now,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is a good point, and this is something too, is that this conversation that we have in here could be dangerous, because when it comes to like people like us and the conversations that we had, because we had an intense conversation in your car like a month ago, was it, or something, or 3 months ago, somewhere in between that. Because we don't talk every day, you know. But when we talk, we will talk, right? And we was talking about that same topic, and for me is like I would never give somebody advice that I wouldn't do.
Right.
But my advice could be too extreme because of who I am. You know, like if I go to somebody and say, you know what, I think your sadness come from your job. You need to quit your job. Oh, how am I going to survive? I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I would do for myself. You know, today I was talking to and we was talking about the same thing, but because coming to London and leaving the job in wherever, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I could guarantee that again. I'll get a job in London. Could you guarantee me?" I said, "I can't guarantee you. I could just tell you what I would do." You know, and to me is good advice because it's always follow your heart.
Yeah.
You know, now is the best time because you're young.
And like kind of to expand on that, like it's not always just follow your heart. I think has this connotation of chasing dreams that can be realistic or completely unrealistic, but that's not really what that means to me. That means following your heart means you feel good or you feel bad. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, that is just as much of an indicator as thinking that you're really passionate about something. It means that there's time for you to reflect on where you might find more happiness. And I think that's something that we're all really guilty of, but some people are willing to put in the work and more than others. And it's just being unhappy is miserable, but trying to solve your unhappiness is incredibly hard. And there's a lot of people who are more willing to be miserable than to put in the work. And I think it kind of comes back to, earlier you said employers now talk about kids these days not wanting to be able to work or not wanting to, work hard or whatever. And to an extent, it's true. We've created a society
Yeah,
where everything
for
comes
sure.
so easy, right?
For sure.
I mean, you have Amazon's same day delivery for free because you pay for Prime. You have any movie you could ever imagine at your fingertips because you just have a connection to the internet. You have, connections to people that are instantaneous through messaging, phone calls, etc. Like these are all things that we take for granted, but they're part of our everyday lives, right? And I think that because it has become so ubiquitous, we are the generations that come after every next generation, unless something changes to inspire people to find their passions rather than just going through a system that produces, replicas of the same thing or tries to at least, you are going to get a lower level of buy-in from kids because why would they buy into a system that doesn't make them happy, where they see the outcomes of their parents working these 9 to 5 jobs that
Yeah.
they're miserable in, and they're still barely able to provide for their families. They're still barely able to.
Especially with the prices now, right?
Everything's so expensive,
Especially the
right?
prices now. But because you said something that kind of it went through my mind and it came back to the front, went to the back and came back to the front. But because you're talking about youth these days and how they are, and from you saying what you're saying, it make me realize that this generation here is the best time to start a creative business, and it's because there's so much consumers now. Most people consume, most people see their friends going to Mexico, they go to Mexico, right? Most people sit on TikTok. For me, I always used to think is the person who start Instagram and the person who start Facebook and all these other social media sites, right? Like why did they start it? Did they start it to see their friends? No, they started so that they can meet somebody in China from being in Canada who doing the same thing as them and tap into that person market. So it was for business. It's all for business. Is to network. You have your passion and you start your passion and you see if one person could pay. If one person could pay and things get slow, you're not doing the wrong thing. You're just in the wrong market, right? You're just talking to the wrong people, right? And most people get frustrated when the friends do buy stuff and stuff from them. But your friend, most times your friends can't afford your prices if you're trying to grow. Most time your friends can't use your services, you know, and you don't really want to market to your friends because that's your friends. You want to try to reach your friends, you know, and you're trying
Yeah.
to you want to try, and that could be frustrating, you know. So for me now it's like, okay, you have social media where it have billions of people on social media, right? How you could tap into people market so that they could buy your creativity. Creativity is one of the most prized assets that everybody have.
Yeah.
Not everybody knows to use it.
Yeah, and I think that's it's important for parents and mentors of any variety, whether you're an older sibling or you're a manager at a workplace, or you have kids of your own, you're an aunt or an uncle, whatever it is. It's important, I think, for you to encourage kids to not just, and I mean, I don't have any kids, full disclosure, so it's hard for me to say this as not a parent, because I know that technology is a tool for a lot of parents to just kind of gain back a little bit of their lives. But I think it's important to encourage kids to get off of
For
these
sure.
devices and try to explore something, like something that you and Christy are really good with Annie. And Annie has an innate passion for this, but you know, to create a business out of something, right? Like you've told me in the past, she's capitalized on opportunities to be able to sell little things that
Yeah,
she can do herself, but for a price that's above the cost of the goods themselves.
exactly.
Sure, she's not paying herself $50 an hour, or whatever it is. She doesn't have a storefront, but she's learning these skills of creating a business from something that she just has fun with. And there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong about that. There's nothing wrong with the idea of having a business that lasts for 5 months. It's exhausting,
Yeah,
and it costs a lot to keep starting new businesses once you get into kind of like the adult stages of it. But teaching people, or encouraging people at least, to create
yeah,
and try to find a way to market it. Like you said, it's not necessarily that your business doesn't work. You may be in the wrong market, and you only learn that through experience.
from doing exactly, you know.
And I think something that scares away a lot of people from business is that, at least when I was in secondary school, they teach you in these kind of like intro to business classes, which are completely useless, at least when I was there. They teach you to create a business plan, go out and do your market research, and all these like very classic
Discouraging.
steps of creating a business. Any entrepreneur will tell you, at least like at the small scale, anyone I've spoken to will say that all of that is just like the biggest waste of time,
But
right?
the reason why they teach you that in class is so that they could get a job.
Right.
So the reason they teach you that is so that an entrepreneur will hire you to build their business.
Yeah.
You know?
Or it discourages you from even trying to go down that road anyway,
for
right?
yourself.
Yeah.
For yourself. So you won't do it for yourself because you know, okay, if I do a business plan and if I do market research, I ain't getting paid for that shit.
Yeah.
For me, but if you pay me to do it, okay, cool, I'll do that in school. I'll do it for you with my eyes closed. But for me to take it from a time, it'll be different, right? When it came to Annie, bro, the thing that motivated me the most was me hearing other parents say, "Oh, I need to send my daughter to work McDonald's so that she could get a work experience. Or I need to send my daughter to work here so that she could get a work experience." And I'm like, yo, forget work experience. You know, what they need to do is they need to learn how to do it for themselves. Because work experience will come. It don't matter if you become a failed entrepreneur, which hardly ever happens. If you become a failed entrepreneur, you could go and learn work experience in your 60s, bro. That will always come.
Yeah.
You know, but teaching your kids how to create businesses. Annie would literally sit and create things. This summer, she says she want to do a lemonade stand. But like last year, she would create these beads, bands, and she would go door to door knocking, selling,
Yeah.
right?
Something that like I don't think you or I even want to do.
No,
Like that's a skill that,
in winter,
right.
in
And
winter.
being
So
able to have the chops to do that when you're that age is
knock
like,
on doors.
that is such enormous value for
It
later in life,
it
because
it
you
creates
are
less
learning
sales.
the skill of rejection. And that is, I
Yeah,
think, something that like people struggle with a lot today, is being rejected, right? Because we kind of grew up on the cusp of a generation where we were, everyone was a winner, and and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
no, it's not. It's not.
It's good to encourage people rather than to discourage people. But competition is what has produced some of the greatest successes. Facebook, like Meta and Apple and Amazon, they're not all running for a participation award. They want to be the best in their industry. They want to take as much market cap as possible. They want to be the most successful service provider, product provider. They don't like it. It doesn't matter how much you participate when you're in business. You need to be able to win, and you only win by learning how to get people to say yes. And you only learn how to get people to say yes by hearing a lot of no's.
Exactly.
So I think like those skills, like they're just so valuable, and there's times, I'm sure with you as well, like I for the first couple of years of my business, every time I heard a no, I was like, oh damn, like do I have to adjust my pricing? Do I have to, am I overvaluing myself? Am I providing the wrong service? Am I not good enough for my customers? Am I not getting the feedback, that I think I need in order to grow this business and improve this business? But when you stick to your guns and you just take the no and you roll with it, you keep going forward, you have an opportunity to get to a yes, because you can learn, maybe change your conversation, the way that you approach the conversation. Maybe you look for a target demographic. And this is, in essence, this is market research.
Yeah.
But it's not sitting down in front of a computer trying to find a study of, 500,000 young males who buy
Yeah,
iPads.
for
Like
sure.
it's you really have to, I think, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to do most of those things that would normally be tasks for an office. You have to be able to do them experientially.
Yeah.
And maybe that isn't sitting in an office, but you have to be able to do it in practice, not in theory. Because the thing that you have as an entrepreneur is your greatest asset, but also your greatest detriment is time. You only have so much of it. There's no one else typically working in parallel to you at the same task or at another task that's going to get you closer to your goal. It's usually you starting off by yourself,
for
right?
sure.
So you only have 24 hours in the day. Like all of us, we only got 24 hours. So how you make use of those 24 hours is really important, especially if you're someone who has a family, especially if you have a relationship, especially if you have other commitments, especially if, hey, entrepreneurship doesn't have to be an all-in thing. It gets to be that eventually, but there's lots of people who start successful businesses who needed to do it while they were still working at a job, and they don't like that job, but that's why they're doing,
It's a
they're
plan.
pursuing
They had a
something,
plan.
right? They have to fund whatever it is. Maybe
Yeah,
they
for
do
sure.
have family. Maybe they do have a mortgage, right? And they use their job to pay their bills while they start their passion, right? And try to turn that into something that can pay their bills. So your limits are your time, and obviously, like, you still have to sleep to some extent. You
To some extent.
You and I both know that means, like, some nights it's a couple hours, some nights it's nothing at all. Some nights, hey, you've got a lot done that week, you're killing it, you're feeling good, or you're just completely drained, and you know that if you push one more day with 4 hours of sleep, you're going to be wasting the
Yeah.
additional 20 hours that you are awake, right? So
I think you just have to master the art of falling asleep on the fly.
yeah,
You had to you had to become good at that. You had to become good at being like, you know what? I have 15 minutes here.
Yeah.
I have to sleep, and you sleep.
let me just knock out real
Yeah,
quick.
on command, bro.
Yeah.
On command. Because if you don't take that sleep, then you're gonna crash, bro.
Yeah.
And when people say, oh, you're doing all these things, like, no, you get all these sleeps you need. Sleep is important. Don't get me wrong, right? You need sleep. You need enough hours of sleep. If you have to sleep 8 hours to be productive, you need to sleep 8 hours to be productive. It's just the other 16 hours, I had to
Mm.
think about it for a while. The other 16 hours, you had to go hard. You
Yeah.
know, so now you don't have time for the other shit. You don't have time for watching full series and stuff.
Nope.
So for me, time is something that you buy. You buy time, right? It's something you purchase when you have a family, right? So for me, I can't just focus on my dream and neglect my family. So I need to go to my family, build some credit, spend time. Like I love spending time with my family. Don't
Yeah.
feel like I say not I do it just for time, but you do that because your kids depend on you and your wife depend on you and everybody depend on you. So I will go home, spend some time. I'll watch a movie with Christy. I know the kid's going to bed at 8, 9. Watch a movie by 11 o'clock. She will go to bed. I will stay up from 11 to 2 to edit.
Hmm.
You know? To me, these things is things that I just starting to learn about creating time where time do exist.
Hmm.
In my eyes and in my mind, time moves lateral. This is lateral, right?
Hmm.
Time moves lateral and not horizontal. So everyone thinks time goes up. Today you're 23, tomorrow next day you're 24, 25, 26. But to me, it's time goes to the side. The only thing that changes is our spirit. Where in the time your spirit is. So right now your spirit in this time capsule. But who you are tomorrow is happening right now. Just our spirit and experiencing it right now. So when I think about time like that, I'm like, okay, what happened tomorrow already happened. God already right. As people say, oh, if I had to die, that means that God was ready for me. Yeah, because it was already written. Everything already written. It will happen anyway. Just experience right now. Look at right now and be like, you know what? I hear with Nate. Instead of me thinking about everything that I'm missing home, or instead of me thinking about every work, all the work that I need to do, let me experience this time because you will learn something. Like how I learn from you right now. You will learn things about the person.
And I think that's like a really valuable point, is that being intentional with your time is kind of what you're talking about. And it's something I think people are really bad at is like acknowledging that, again, back to the, you only have your 24 hours. And like you said, you're intentional about spending time with your family so that you can have time by yourself in the evening. You finish a movie by 11 or whatever. And until 2 o'clock, you have 3 hours. And in those 3 hours, you know that you need to get a certain amount of stuff done. Whether or not that's, you need to edit 4 videos, let's say, right? You're not putting a quantity on it like that. You're saying in those 3 hours, I need to edit, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Just like in the time from, let's say, 5 to 8, you're with the kids.
Yeah.
Right. It's being intentional with your time. And so many people are, and we're both guilty of this too, but are absent from their moments throughout the day as well, where the mindless scrolling that so many people do. And I do it. I'll sit there and there's something that I don't remember where I read it or heard it on another podcast or something, but it was talking about how there were employers, and I forget where it was, who were banning cell phones in washrooms. And it was because employees, go in to use the washroom, and you sit down, and
Screw.
you can normally do what you got to do in a minute or two, right? But you have your phone with you. Now that minute or two turns into 10. And that's just like, it's again an example of just not being intentional with your time. Like, what is your intention for that moment? You're going to the washroom. Like, you don't need to be there scrolling. Now, taking a break is different. Taking a break from your work, and this comes into the whole conversation about jobs, versus passion and stuff. But taking a break should be intentional as well. You should be intentionally separating yourself from your work, which means that if you work in a job, or if you work in a career environment where you have an employer, there's there always has to be an opportunity where you can fully separate yourself from that work. And a lot of people will say, "Oh no, I'm on the clock all the time. You don't understand my position." And in some cases that's true, right? Like there are some people who need to be present all the time. Like I want my emergency responders to be present when they're at work. Like I don't want them to be, oh no, I'm on 15. Like catch you in a minute. Like there are roles where you sacrifice certain liberties, but the world doesn't stop when Janice in accounting steps away from her computer and doesn't fill out some kind of receipt or some expense requisition or something like that. Like she can take 15 minutes. Just like, Bob at the Gap can step away and, take his 15 minutes. Like but you have to be intentional about that. Like, what are you stepping away for? Are you stepping away just to scroll? Cool. You are being intentional about that. But if you're stepping away to take your break and employers are guilty of this too, where they say, oh, it's your break time now. And maybe you don't need a break at that time. Maybe you're not feeling like you're fatigued, or you're not feeling like you need to separate yourself from your work at the time.
Or you're hungry and you have to eat.
You're not hungry, or whatever it is, right? And you get put into this position where you're almost encouraged to be unintentional with your time, because it's just kind of like, oh, well, I guess it's break time. Like, what do I do? I wasn't really planning on having break right now, but I kind of have to have break right now. I'm told to. So kind of getting a little bit muddled, but every hour has to generate some kind of output. And for me, I know that I need, as best as I can, close to like six hours of sleep every night. If I can get 6 good hours, that means that my other 18 are a lot more productive. That means that when I wake up at 6 a.m. or whatever it is, I can actually, do my morning routine. My morning routine's intentional. I start, I make my coffee. I get ready for the day. I, get into my work clothes, whatever it is, make my bed, all that stuff. By the time I leave the house, maybe an hour later, maybe, whatever it is, I've done the things that set me up for my day. I've created all of the things that are going to put me in a good position to execute the next hour. And that next hour might be driving. Well, you might think like, well, what can you do while you're driving? You're driving. Yeah. Well, that's when I listen to podcasts. That's when I listen to books. That's when I, try to gain as much as I can while still being present, obviously, on the roads. But every moment leads to another moment, and you have to have a plan for those moments, or else you end up, and I used to do this all the time, especially when I was kind of in slow periods with the business and stuff like that. I would sit there and I would, go on my phone, and even if I was reading articles and stuff like that, it had nothing to do with what I should have been doing in those moments, because I wasn't working towards a result that I knew I needed to, some benefit I needed to gain from reading something, or from listening to something, or from scrolling through Instagram or whatever it is. If I had been more intentional with the time, I could have said, hey, 30 minutes on Instagram just to see what's new, so I can stay on top of, my Instagram has a lot of design trends and, things to do with, related to my business space and stuff like that. And I would kind of look up, and 4 hours had gone by, and I was like, well, what did I accomplish in this time? Nothing. I did nothing to work towards a goal. I did nothing to recharge myself. I did nothing to, foster creativity. I did nothing to move any of those needles in a positive direction. It was always kind of just I look back and I'm like, well, 4 hours just disappeared. And especially when you're running your own show, when you're in the entrepreneurship world, when you lose 4 hours, you lose more than just half, standard work day. You lose the opportunity to meet 20 people,
Yeah.
the opportunity to learn a new skill, the opportunity to just get your books right, the opportunity to
And
connect with somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, right?
yeah, and a lot of the time with entrepreneurs is about timing, right? So that time where that you missed that one thing could have lead to that one other thing. Like a lot of things that happen for us is because we happen to run into somebody who knows somebody. But if we wasn't there in that moment, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the times that happen because they say luck is where opportunity, where preparation meets opportunity. You know, and it happens a lot because you put yourself in these situations, and most of the times it comes when you don't expect it. So when you miss that 4 hours of doing that one thing, and then you start to think, and then your mind goes into creative mode, and you start to run through all the possibilities or things that you probably missed out on, and all the work you've done so far. It 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 becomes frustrating, right? So time is everything when it comes to how we think, and even sometimes when I go if I need a break and I'm like, I'm gonna go play some FIFA, and I'll call Savvy or one of Stage or someone and be like, let's play a game of FIFA.
Yeah.
And if that person can't play at that moment, we're not playing a FIFA.
Yeah.
Because I have like a 20-minute gap right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Again, intentionality. Right?
Exactly. You know, I have a 20-minute gap right now. That's enough for me to play one, maybe 2 games, you know?
Yeah.
So if you can't play right now, then we can't play. Don't make sense.
Right.
You know, so then I'll just go and do something. As I say, I might go on stroll,
Yeah.
you know, I might go and take a shit if I feel like, you know, something different to get my mind away from work so I could go back into work.
Exactly.
You know, and once I get too tired, I stop working because I realize that my edits are just trash.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're doing is just trash at that point. You're not being creative.
You're not producing the level of output that you know that you're capable of, and there's nothing more frustrating to people who are kind of in our headspace of being creative, of producing a high quality product, whatever that product is, then looking back the next day and realizing that you spent 3 hours last night doing something that you'll never use because you can't put your name on it.
I think everyone needs a time where they reset. You know, my time is Sunday mornings. Last Sunday, we went to the campground, and that's a reset to me. I was out in nature with people who I care about, and to me, that was a reset. Even though it wasn't just me by myself, me being in nature with people who you love, take you back to your purpose. You know, like why you do what you do. I did carry my camera. I got like 3 shots. I didn't even have time because once I'm in that moment, I'm in that moment. I don't think about, oh, I should record this. A lot of stress comes some people when they do reset spiritually. You know, you have to find that time for meditation, and meditation can be wherever you want it to be. It doesn't need to be a specific
You don't have to
thing.
sit on the floor and cross your legs.
Exactly. But you should stand in the bathroom for a little while, in the shower by yourself for a little while. You should go do gardening. Figuring out yourself is scary because sometimes you start to see the parts of yourself that you start to think, oh, I think I'm an asshole for this.
Yeah.
You start to actually break down who you are. So
And it kind of plays into, I guess, like our original conversation about being unemployable, and that has nothing to reflect on our quality of work or ability to complete a task. Like you said, it's about it. I think a large part of it comes down to being respected and appreciated for what you're offering. And I think we're just part of a small group right now that's going to quickly grow, or is quickly growing, of people who aren't willing to trade off their life, their time, for simply a paycheck. They want to be able to make sure that if they are trading their time for a paycheck, they're also getting appreciation. They're also getting opportunity. And yeah, there's people who need to do mundane tasks, but we're also kind of in an interesting period where, Teslas are built by robots. I think there's a few like fast food restaurant kind of pilots in California somewhere, probably San Francisco area, that are like fully robotic. Like they make you a burger or whatever, and it's like there's no humans that work there. You put in your order on a screen, and there's a robot arm like flipping burgers in the back or whatever. Like we're in a time where these jobs that are often dead end jobs, other than moving into a manager role or whatever, which is fantastic for a lot of people. That's all that's the path that they need in their life to be able to progress from, they started by taking out the trash or cleaning toilets or whatever it is, and they get promoted to working on the grill, or and then, or dishwasher, to line cook, to sous chef, to maybe chef if they go through the training and stuff as well. But these are paths that require acknowledgement for improvement and acknowledgement for passion. And the unemployable thing comes from, I think, the idea of being tricked into thinking that you have an opportunity for those things, when in reality an employer wants you to do one thing and they want you to keep doing that one thing even if it's broken.
Yeah.
And that's, you mentioned our conversation in the truck a few months ago, but kind of came down to I was at a point in my life where business wasn't going great, and I had to reach out and get a job for a short time, just to keep my lights on, keep my bills paid. And that is the reality of entrepreneurship, is that if you don't do enough to secure your future, then you don't have a secure future. Like, you need to continue working at that business and making sure that you have money coming in, which I did a really poor job of for a period. And then I got hit with some really bad luck.
And that's the waves, right?
Those are the waves.
That's the waves. That's
entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and you always have to be looking at, this month we could make $7,000, but next month we could make $0.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people stay at their jobs, going back to the whole unemployable thing, or the people who are employable, who are able to stick it out at a job where they can put up with being undervalued or, underappreciated or whatever it may be. Maybe they're just looking for the right incentive to leave. And if they had a solution to a problem outside of their work life, maybe it's a home life problem. Maybe they can get an answer to that, and that would empower them to find an opportunity to leave their job and to start something new, something creative, something that they're passionate about. And, it's nothing against people who want to continue doing their 9 to 5 every day. And, they love that. They've made that their life. If that works for you, then that works for you. Maybe there's another way that you can solve a problem about being creative in your lifestyle. But for us, we got to keep pushing forward and seeing what we can do about, being more creative and finding an outlet for our passions.
Yeah. As it is, bro, I think we had a good episode that could help people and stuff. I think it was really, like, thanks for coming on. I know that I wanted you to come on because I know the conversations we have and how it could help people. But yeah, thanks for coming on, bro, and I know we will talk again soon.
Yeah, for sure, man. No, I appreciate you having me on, the time that you took to. I appreciate all the time that you take to invest in people around you, and not just, we talked all night about doing things for yourself and making sure that you're making good use of your own time and investing in yourself. But, one of the reasons why we've become so close over the years is just that I think you and I are similar in a way that we like to invest in each other and other people as well. And I think that's just that's super valuable to creating a community of people who are able to solve problems, who are able to be creative, who can start new businesses. And so I really, really respect that and appreciate that about you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, bro. It's only because I only like winners around me. I hate being around losers, bro. It's the worst thing. But yeah, thanks, and I'd like to thank you guys because this is our 4th episode. We reached number 4. I know to most people it wouldn't be something huge. It's only 4 episodes, but to me it's huge because to me is we start something and we've been consistent every week. Um, as I tell my kids, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So I know that everything was a learning curve, and sometimes we have great episodes, and sometimes we have not so great episodes. And in terms of the audio, so we I know that we've figured out everything, and some people was like, "Oh, you shouldn't post that one because of the audio," but the reason why I post everything still is because I want to be transparent and show people that you don't need to be great to start, but the only way you could measure yourself is by having something. So as you go along and as you get better, you could look back and be like, oh, remember that? Remember that? That was one of the main reasons why I did my first short film and stuff, was because I always wanted to have something that I could watch.
Benchmark, right?
Exactly, and remember that. Oh, remember when I do it like this. So thanks a lot for being on episode 4. Thanks to everyone who's been on the episode so far. Thanks to everyone who's been working on the back end of it. Savio, Jason, Christine, having to listen to all the edits over and over. Emily, everyone who is part and who is supporting. Kayla, Kayla listens to every episode and she comments on the Instagram, and simple things like that to me mean the world, right? And it's not even about the accolades there. It is more about me knowing that it have people out there who believe in simple things that I do. So thank you. Another thing, I'd like to thank Oxambo Barbershop for lending us this space. As you can see, we're in the barbershop right now, and this is where we use as our main studio, where we bring our guests and stuff. So, and this is actually sponsored by Oxambo Barbershop, so they're paying me right now. They don't pay, but
You should take that up with the owner.
yeah, the owner is an asshole apparently. But yeah, but thank you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week for another episode of Young and Gifted.